Hello, good evening, and welcome back to the IIRL Twitch channel. Hope last week was great for you. Back with another week. Last week we kicked off the season with a great few races. In case you missed it, bit of a recap. This time last week on Tuesday, we were at the Bahrain Grand Prix, kicking off Season 3. Slapbus and Ghost having a really good fight in the race. In the end, Ghost with a spin that unfortunately did cost him the win. Slapbus took home the win pretty comfortably in the end, but his strategy was flawless and made no mistake during the race. So Slapbus took home 25 points last week, and unfortunately can't be here this week, so could potentially have Ghost as the new drivers standings leader in just a couple of hours time. As for Thursday night, Deflated We took home the win, Adrian and Josh finishing on the podium. And Assist Tier 2 on Sunday night. Aki, really strong performance. Up there in the fight for pole and took the win. Upcoming Karma and IIRL on the podium alongside Aki. Evening to you, Karis. Hope you're well. Couple of minutes and then we'll be getting going. 19 of us here tonight. Good turnout. As you can see, this week, round 2 of 22, we are at Saudi Arabia for the Jeddah Grand Prix. 25 laps, full qualifying session, 18 minutes for Q1, 15 minutes for Q2, 12 minutes for Q3. We're glad to hear it, Akaris. I am very well, thank you. I am very good too, thank you very much. Great to be back streaming. As always, every week here on this channel, 3 streams. Tuesday is the no assist tier 1 bunch, so all of these drivers running absolutely no assist whatsoever. The hardest form of sim racing there is today. And with all these patches coming in, performance of the cars and the feel of the cars do change a lot, so these drivers are going through some adaptation processes at the moment, which means whoever wins tonight, either the patch has been kind to them or they've just had a bit too much practice at this moment in time. Jeddah, of course, one of the newer tracks on the calendar. I think one that has caused some kind of controversy in the sense of the ethics and the morals of being there in this country, which perhaps the Western world don't quite see eye to eye with, do disagree with. But as for this track, it is a corker, let's be honest. This track is brilliant. And we'll go on a track tour with whoever's first out of the pits in Q1. Most corners on the calendar on this Jeddah circuit, 28 of them. Some of them are technically corners, some of them are just passing by. Still all corners nonetheless. First out of the pits run here. So that is who is going to be doing our track tour. John out directly behind him. Thank you for the follow, Darren GMB. Appreciate that, man. Hope you're well. More than welcome on this channel. 3 streams a week, Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday nights. 7:30 PM GMT will be kicking off. This is round 2 this week here at Jeddah, following a realistic Formula 1 calendar. Remains to be seen if Portimao will be included in our calendar. That's in discussion with management, but we haven't got... That's not urgent right now. Focus on Jeddah. Hey Darren, how are you, mate? How are you? As you can tell, plenty of talking topics in the title. 3 of them, in fact. We'll get onto that in a little bit. But for now, Ronnie is going to do a little bit of a track tour for us. So DRS is just on the floor there. Down towards turn 1, flat out most of this lap. 60-70% of this is full throttle. Very tricky opening chicane. You can get warnings running wide and cutting those corners, so be careful. Get on the throttle. Preparation for the start of the S section. Very tricky. Pick your turn in and your application of the throttle. If you do it too soon, you might see a bit of a spin and someone going into the barriers. This S section is brilliant when you nail it, and you will gain so many tenths of a second on your opponents. But if it's not quite there, it may be the difference between dropping out of qualifying into turn 13 already. That long left-hander, which widens slightly, so you're able to put some power on quite early on, down to 5th or maybe 6th for some of them for this first of 2 chicanes in sector 2. And then you have this massive long straight, which on the last game didn't have DRS, but does have DRS on this game. Pick your nice braking point here, clip that apex on the left. That apex on the right will throw you off if you go full power over it and turn on it too much, so be careful of that. Out of that you got the long turn 25 and 26, both left-handers flat out. You get DRS down there as well towards the final corner, turn 27, not 28 as I said a second ago, and DRS to the line. And Ranier sets things off with a 1 minute 32.3. John with a 29.3. So that proves just how difficult this track can be, and the difference in times when you nail it and when you don't nail it. Thank you. Glad to hear it, Darren. I am very well, thank you, mate. I am very well, thank you. Are you a racer, Darren? Let us know. Let us know what you think of this track as well. I always like seeing people's opinions on each track we visit on the calendar. Some tracks, of course, suit certain drivers and their driving style. Maybe they're just quicker at that track for whatever reason. Other people, doesn't quite work for them. Bear with me 1 minute. Apologies. When the door goes, unfortunately you have to open it. So, handful of times, 7 on the board so far. Still 12 minutes left of Q1. Plenty of time for drivers to come in and out of the pits, get their lap times on the board. Of course, on this track, invalidations are crucial. Very easy to cut a corner. Expect to see a lot of penalties here tonight. These drivers are very clean and very good racing drivers, but still, sometimes these tracks throw up a lot of time penalties. iRacing, how is iRacing, mate? I've never done iRacing, so yeah, let me know what it's about, mate. That guy and Ross invalidating their first attempts, but that guy on controller. This is not a controller track. So, as I know too well, my practice today was shoddy at best. Little tap of the wall, but nothing too harmful. May have cost him a few milliseconds, but nothing too drastic. Your line through these fast corners doesn't really matter too much, but your line through that chicane obviously does. And for the second lap in a row, that guy has invalidated. Onto his teammate Ross now, coming through sector 2 split through this very fast sector 3, where he might get a bit of a slipstream here from one of the Mercedes. Could be Dayman or Mr. Wiggles. Both are out on track on the flying lap right now. Fingers crossed for Ross, he won't lose too much downforce running that closely to a car in front. Dayman it was, goes into P6 with his lap. Ross goes less than a tenth away from first. And Mr. Wiggles, the second Mercedes, goes into third, quickly replaced by 1010, who goes 6 milliseconds quicker than Wiggles. So time's flying in now. Pretty comfortable, I'd say, those in a 29 right now. That remains to be seen. Still 10 minutes left. Hello, John. How are you, mate? Caught running of the whole last sector. Also like the helmet. Which helmet was that? Thank you for the follow, Atom Force. Appreciate that. We are rapidly, I was about to say we're rapidly approaching 450 followers now, but we've actually gone past that last week. So thank you all for your support. Since the new season started, we've had loads of follows, so we appreciate that. Hope you enjoy our streams. 3 of them each week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Recommend it. I've heard good stuff about iRacing, but it is very different from F1. So I've heard. On to a debutant this week. GregStarz, first race here in IIRL. And unfortunately for Greg, this one won't count. We do have an IIRL Greg, as you can see in 14th, so I think I'm probably going to call GregStarz either GregStarz or Stars, just to avoid some confusion. Greg will always be Greg in my head. Prev across the line, Ferrari this year, swapping out the Aston Martin from last year, and puts in a 30.0, popping him nicely into 5th place at the moment. And his teammate GregStarz has dipped into the pits. About Deton, he is on a slow lap, so no improvement here. Akaris is gearing up for another run, and Dayman is moving out of the way. So we'll go on board with Akaris then. Sixth gear through this section for Akaris, trying to keep that wheel spin at the rear of the car to an absolute minimum. Drivers do struggle with setup, especially since the performance patch in the last couple of weeks. Finding a good setup with all these changes is very difficult, so some of these drivers may not have had an awful lot of time to practice and get a new setup for tonight. Fingers crossed there won't be any other alterations. We can finally get some stability in this game in terms of performance. Boris 4 tenths down through the first sector, but might get a bit of a slipstream here from one of the Haas cars. It could be his good old buddy Tucker, or it could be Tidiest Bear, who is on an outlap. Ghost 29.7, Akaris dips into the pit, so that one wasn't as quick as his personal best. Ghost Tomino popping into 5th place right now, 129.7. 15 times on the board, make that 16. As that guy, he can definitely go quicker than that. Probably just the sizer of a lap. John has retired, but on a 29.3, pretty comfortable there, and should see himself nicely into the second part of qualifying. 6 minutes left on the board. It's the pinnacle. Interesting. So do you race F1 as well? Can you compare the two, or do you just race iRacing? Tucker 14th at the moment, finds himself a second away from his next challenger Runnier in 13th place. So potentially a massive improvement on the cards here for Tucker with his beautiful orange helmet in that Haas car this year. Ronier's improved by a few tenths of a second, but stays in 13th, and that bottom 4 yet to set a time are all out on track on an out lap. So these timing screens are definitely going to change at some point. Perry Jerry did really well last week on his debut, qualified P3, finished in the points. Can't ask for a better debut than that. He's starting a flying lap now, coming down towards the S section. Oh, and Tucker's gone! And the wheel is off, and Tucker, unfortunately for him, is out of qualifying. Even if he stays in 15th, he will not be able to drive in Q2, and that is just... well, that is a demonstration of how dangerous and tricky this track can be. Flute, Wiggles and 1010 all retiring in the pits, thinking that their times are pretty safe. Here's Stars now through sector 2, very tricky chicane. Get as close as you can to that right hand wall. Try not to clip the right hand wall on the exit of the left hander. Very tricky, this track. Different elements needed to it. Straight line speeds, you need good turn in for sector 1, you need to make sure you don't lose the back end as well. Plenty of elements needed to hook up a lap here. Perry Jerry on his first flying lap of the session goes into 7th place, and that guy, we said he would improve, and he has. He's up to 8th place right now. So them two comfortably safe, I would say. What about Stars? He goes into 14th place and pushes Akaris into the danger zone by a few hundredths of a second. But here comes Greg and Thaddeus Bear. Thaddeus Bear is just coming through sector 1, I believe. I don't want to say anything too soon. Yes, he has had a bit of a slow sector 1. I think I saw him recovering from a spin or going slowly. Thaddeus Bear, this lap time won't be the one to set the times alight. But he can go again. 2 minutes left now. Tucker will be leaving us after that crash, currently in the drop zone 2. But who will be the other 4 drivers to join them? Greg is currently not safe, 4 tenths away from safety on that 31.1. Thaddeus Bear will come round for another lap. Still using ERS, so might be dipping into the pits at the end of this attempt. Thank you for the follow, Major. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. It says, come on, Perry Jerry and Ghost Tomino. Deaton might get a nice bit of slipstream here from a Williams car in front of him. I'm trying to think who that could be. Does move out of the way. That is very courteous. Obviously, don't want to block another driver in qualifying. Will ruin their lap, and especially with Deaton in the drop zone, he needs all of the help he can get. Doesn't want anyone to be in his way. He's on the 33.5. It's going to be better. It's a 32.1, but it's still not quite good enough to get himself out of qualifying 1 at the moment. Runny is on a lap, but is a 10th down in the first sector. Needs more time in sector 2, and it looked like he just went a bit too far, a bit too deep into that chicane. Might have lost some time there. Smaller retires from P9. He should be pretty safe with where he is, and Greg has decided to retire in the pits in 16th, so Greg is out, and at the moment his counterpart GregStarz is safe. But what about Runniers? A small gain through sector 2, but he needs over a second. Oh, and a bit of a slide out of the final corner. That's not going to help his progress. Runnier across the line. Will it be safe? stays in 17th and only a 1/10 improvement. Tiniest Bear across the line. It's a 20-second improvement, but unfortunately it is still 19th for Tiniest Bear. He will qualify ahead of his teammate, which might give him some confidence in the race. What about Akari's? His time is the one to beat right now, as the checkered flag falls. If Akari's can get himself ahead of... Oh, and that's a spin. Very easily done at that corner. Needs to make sure he doesn't block anyone. There's an Alfa Romeo of Deton coming through, and thankfully for Deton, Akari's was ghosted. So what about Ranier? He is coming through Sector 1 very slowly, so no improvement for Ranier, and Tiniest Bear struggling with a spin himself. So that bottom 5 are decided. Greg will be starting in 16th, his teammate Ranier starting behind him on the grid in 17th. Deton will start in 18th place, and the two Hasses, unfortunately for us, we've seen that a bit too much in real life Formula 1. Tiniest Bear Tucker bringing up the rear in Jeddah. Christian, appreciate that, man. Thank you. Very kind. It's interesting streaming, because sometimes you think, oh yeah, I'm quite good at that, but sometimes you have no idea if you're good at it when you start it. Incidentally, next week will be my 100th stream, so it's amazing how far we've come on this channel. And when the league was formerly known as APS, it's an amazing journey I've been on, the amount of drivers I've seen in these two leagues that have merged and changed so often. I've seen some absolute aliens. If you know, you know. I've seen some incredible battles on track, and I'm sure we're going to get more of that here tonight. And thank you for the follow, Midlies. Midlage? Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're well. John, just needed the one lap to go quickest. Ross in touching distance, and a few drivers behind nipping at the heels. 1010, Wiggles, Prev and Ghost, all within half a second of John's original lap time. Harry Jerry, that guy smaller. Ryan rounding up the top 10, but of course Q1 is just about making sure you don't go out. Fortunately for Greg, Ranier, Deton, Tiniest Bear, Tucker, they'll be starting in the bottom 5 places for the race, happening in a little over half an hour's time. Quali is not my strong point. Honestly, quali has never been my strong point either. Some people are great at it, some people are better in the race, some people really struggle with it. So hard to be brave enough on this. Honestly, I completely feel your day, man. It is so tricky on this track, especially on the pad, as we've already said. But obviously, we wish everyone best of luck for the race. Sometimes there are tracks where your strategy is don't crash, don't bin it. And I think this track is one of those. Good evening, Snacks. How are you, mate? How are you? How's your preparation for Thursday coming along? Even if I went new tyres, still being 1.3 seconds back is too much. At least 3 sets of softs for the race. That is a good point. That is a good point. Obviously, safety cars could easily come out on this track, which means changing tyres could be very important in the race. So having those spare set of softs, especially towards the end, could be very crucial. 4-stop incoming. I saw a post on social media from this random dude, I don't know him, who was doing a race, and George Russell in that race, an AI, had 9 pit stops. Absolutely crazy stuff. Driving home, 2 hours left. So what are you doing watching the stream if you're driving home? That is dangerous. Snacks. But yes, hope your trip to the UK was very nice indeed. Am I right in thinking, Snacks, that you came over to UK to watch the Netherlands possibly in the Women's Euro final? Is that... have I got that right? If that is right, I will not mention what happened on Sunday night. But for those in the chat who are English, British, feel free to celebrate the win. So Q2 underway, and 12 out of the 15 drivers out on track at the moment. Flew the first across the line to start a lap time. John quickly behind him. And Mr. Wiggles behind John for the second time in as many sessions. You did 5 last season. Oh, you should have seen me in 82 last season. I reserved and finished a lap down pretty much all the field. It was possibly my worst race I've ever done. Ghost and Perry, go boys. Support cheering you on. Perry on an out lap right now. Ghost 2. So 1 minute 1.2 for John through the second sector. Try and keep an eye on some of these sector splits over the course of the evening, especially in qualifying, of course. John may have been distracted or may have got a slight slipstream, may not have got absolutely anything behind that car behind him, but that car behind him will be starting a brand new lap. I think it might be Flu. John sets pace with a 28.8, which is the fastest we've seen today by quite a margin. Ross is faster than his time in Q2 and does a 29.1. Ryan, who pushed Ross to the championship all the way last season and possibly could be a contender for a possible championship fight this season, hasn't played in a while, so he's still getting used to this game. Getting back up to speed, up to form. 29.8 for Ryan, 10.10 meanwhile, reserving tonight 29.4. That's pretty good pace there from 10.10. The two McLarens, propping up the timing screens at the moment. Smiley just behind Ryan. And Akaris, we know, who can improve at this early portion of second qualifying. Obviously, just like real F1 last season in Q2, you'd have to start the race on the set of tyres you used to get to Q3, but not anymore. It is a free tyre choice, so everyone will be on the soft tyres in qualifying, I imagine. Only one set of medium and hard compound tyres for the race. We will probably be seeing the mediums and the hards for this race, but we may see some people doing a 2-stop, and if we see some people's front wings going everywhere, we may even see 3 or 4 or more stops tonight. So stars, that's a 1 minute 2.2 through sector 2, lots of 2s going on here. Roughly 1 second behind John through that second sector split. So expect to see either a low 30 or a high 29 in a few seconds' time. and it is a low 30. It is currently P9. Dayman, similar second sector to Greg, and just a slightly better last sector, takes over proud owner of 9th. Karius is in the pits, so no improvement on that same set of tyres. He'll probably be boxing for another set as we speak. What about Prev? Let's go smaller. My goat, Sketchiest Crib. How are you doing, mate? How are you doing? Hope you're well. And good evening, Novatek. Shame you're not able to race with us more often, but we hope to see you out on track as soon as possible. Prev has backed off this lap. ERS has been disengaged, so we'll join with Flu instead. Flu, our resident Frenchman here in IIRL. 13th place at the moment. Last season scored points in 13 of 13 races in this division. Cracking achievement. Lots of 13s going on for Flu tonight. He'll be hoping to get himself into the top 10. John and 1010 both retiring early from this session. Still 7.5 minutes left, so they are incredibly confident those times are going to get them through into the top 10 shootout. So Flea around the final corner. Might get a bit of a slipstream from, I think that's a Mercedes in front of him, but that's dived into the pits, so Flu will have to do it by himself. And it's 6th fastest for Flu. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good lap. 29.7, just behind Mr. Wiggles. Only a 10th away from his teammate, who was fighting for pole last week. That guy can't quite beat his teammate. Still 6 or so tenths away from Ross, but P5 for him. That's a pretty good lap. And what about Ghost? He's flying through Sector 2. Fastest split in Sector 2 we have seen in this session so far. Could this be fastest time so far? Will have to depend on that final corner. Looked pretty good, but how quick did he get on that throttle and how much speed can he carry to the line? It's a 28.6 and it's fastest. Ghost Tomino should be pretty safe on that. Ghost took pole last week by 3.5 tenths of a second. He could very well see that happen once again. Mr. Colucci, John's teammate tonight, hoping, not tonight, this season, hoping he can follow in John's footsteps and get through into the top 10. Thank you for the follow, ARL Gaza. Hope you're well, mate. And he says, howdy, howdy, howdy to you. How are you, Gaza? How are you doing today? Colucci, 102.2 in the middle sector. That's similar to Dayman and GregStarz down in that drop zone. So he needs a mighty last sector here if he wants to beat the drop. Currently the time to beat is Smaller Smiley's 1 minute 29.8, and it's super close there. Look at that, Perry Jerry, only 2 tenths quicker than that, up in 5th place, so every 10th of a second counts here in this session. And Colucci rounds off his lap and will be 14th as things stand. What about Akari's then? Expecting plenty of time gain through this, but he's switched off his ERS in Sector 2. Really is a shame, sadly no longer away due to some reasons, but we'll try to be there in Melbourne next week. Lovely. Looking forward to having you back, Novatech, next week. Mr. Wiggles then, starting a new lap. Running a little bit wide, oh, and a bit of a slide. Could have ended so badly there for Wiggles. Living up to his name. Thankfully, his name is not Mr. Crashles. Flew retiring in the pits. and like he did earlier in Q1, but this time he might be a little bit more nervous to see if he can get through to Q3. Only 1/10 ahead of smaller Smiley. Prev into the pits. Colucci is running out rapidly of ERS, so may lose some time in this last sector to his previous best. Will probably be at Imola. No worries, mate. Whenever we see you, I'm sure it'd be a lovely thing. Colucci into the pits. No improvement there. Still has time to come out again. Car Risto will be looking for more improvement. Did improve on his last lap, but we saw him back off in Sector 2, so this will probably be the gung-ho lap we were probably expecting last time. See if we can get 2 McLarens into the top 10. Of course, if Akaris gets into the top 10, he'll be pushing his teammate out at this point. Akaris, it's a 1 minute 2.3 through the second sector. Might need a mighty last sector here if he wants to emerge in the top 10. I'm very well, thank you, Gaza. Very well, thank you, mate. How are you, Gaza? Do you race? Do you do F1? Do you do iRacing? Do you do Forza? Assetto Corsa? Let us know. Akaris, it's an improvement, but unfortunately not on his position. Stays in 15th at this moment in time. What about GregStarz coming through Sector 2? And good evening, Demon. Hope you're well, mate. That guy back out on track. Smaller Prev, Dayman, Colucci all back out on track for a final frantic few minutes of Q2. Session is not done yet, and looking at those gaps between 5th place and 13th place, anyone could go out here. GregStarz pops himself beautiful lap there, almost top of that midfield pack. Couple more milliseconds and he would have found himself a lot more comfortable in P5, but that's a pretty good lap there from Greg. 29.6 might see him through into Q3 on his debut tonight. That is a great lap. Mr. Wiggles gearing up for one flying lap of the final few minutes. With Flew retiring, that might be good news for some of these guys in the top 10. Oh, and there's a spinner. That is Dayman. Is it? Yes, it is. Dayman. That guy invalidates in Sector 2 on that chicane. Very easily done. He can go for one more run. That guy obviously in this top 10, so he might not need to improve on his lap time as Dayman, as Mr. Wiggles, sorry, has had a bit of a spin in Sector 1. Ryan pops up into 5th place, and that will probably see him through into the next part of qualifying. What about Smaller? He's starting a brand new lap. Prev coming to the end of Sector 1 and is a 10th to the good. And bonjour Flu, how are you? Currently the time to beat on a 29.7 if one of these bottom 5 beat Flu's time. Unfortunately Flu will be saying au revoir to qualifying. And Prev could be in a nice little spot to do it. He's a 10th to the good in Sector 1, and through Sector 2 he is 4 tenths up. Checkered flag has fallen. Akaris will be starting 15th on the grid. Prev looking increasingly likely here to knock Flew out of Q2 and put himself up into the top 10. Greg Pitts and Perry Jerry have finished their sessions. Still plenty of lap times to be flooding in. We've got Dayman or Wiggles, one of the 2 Mercedes coming behind Prev, who goes 4th fastest, and that will comfortably see him through. Mr. Wiggles, no improvement on this time, and he is now the one to beat. Could we have a shock exit for Mr. Wiggles in Q2? Here comes Smaller Smiley. Will he be happy coming over the line? Currently in 12th and stays in 12th. Small improvement. Dayman has invalidated and so has Colucci, so Flu is out. But Mr. Wiggles has survived by the skin of his teeth. Wow, that was super close. Flu eliminated from qualifying by less than half a tenth of a second. And wow, we could have had a massive shock there. Mr. Wiggles heading out. Could have happened. We could have seen that guy heading out. Unfortunately, Flu is out. Joins Smaller Smiley, Dayman, Colucci and Akaris as the 5 to be eliminated from Q2. Love you speaking French. Oh, you're welcome. Hey guys, how are you, mate? You well, mate? Can't keep the car from spinning. Yep. Me too, mate. Me too. I'm joining you in that boat. All the best for the race, of course. Oh, he preserved tyres, Flu. Unfortunately. Well, I mean, you might get a chance to use them in the race, depending on safety cars and damage and whatnot. Yep, sometimes with those decisions, it's high risk, high reward. If it works, it really works well for you. Sometimes it just doesn't go your way. Flu, Smiley, Dayman, Colucci, Akaris dropping out in Q2, but we're seeing a bit of a pattern form so far. Ghost took pole last week. Could he be taking it again in Jeddah? John is here though and is looking prepared for the fight. And as Q3 starts, this is the final push for these 10 drivers. We have a range of constructors here, 2 AlphaTauris, 2 Ferraris, Aston Martin, a Mercedes, an Alfa Romeo, a Red Bull, a Williams, make that 2. How'd you beat me to it? Let's get your top 3 predictions in the chat. Who do you think is going to be in the top 3 for qualifying? That was a bad hiccup. Ghost, John and Ross, pretty solid shouts. Amazing that Ross has the pace he has, considering how little practice he does. Still beyond belief how he manages to do that. Ghost P1, Perry top 5. Sounds pretty good to me. Of course, it is possible to overtake on this track, and there are overtaking opportunities down into the final corner, and turn 1 are the main ones. Might even see some down this back straight that Ryan's coming down now, DRS opening. Might even see a move into the chicane. Demon, mate. If I had my way, if I was president, or prime minister even, that would become a reality. Ghost P1, John P2, Ross P3. Solid shouts. Certainly following a bit of a theme we've seen so far tonight, as Ryan comes across to be the 4th driver to set a lap time. Sparks flying off the back of that Williams. Come on, boy, Ryan. Had the most podiums in this division last season. 12 podiums from 13 races. but it was pretty much all second places for him, and that's why he just narrowly missed out on the title by 9 solitary points to IIRL. No idea, says Darren. Mate, sometimes I don't even know. Beautifully taken, that chicane. Bit of a nudge on the way out, might cost him a few milliseconds in the long term, but overall, no harm done really, as long as he didn't get damaged, of course. And through sector 1, it's a 1 minute 2.1, so not the quickest we've seen tonight here. Safely assume, I think, that Ryan can do better than this attempt. But I'll have to wait and see what it is first. I'm going to say Ross to win this race, says Josh. Again, a solid shout. Ross is a lot better in the race than he is in qualifying. And 10:10, that's his fastest lap of the evening so far, a 29.0, putting himself firmly within that challenge for pole position. John though, the quickest time we've seen from him tonight, 28.6. Currently topping the time in the screens, and Mr. Wiggles, that is a great lap considering he was almost out in Q2, a 29.0, 7 tenths faster than his Q2 lap. Ross, that's a slow one from him, but he'll go again. What about Prev? He's coming down now towards second sector split. It's a 1 minute 1.4, that's pretty good. It may not be up there with John, but it might be there in contention for second or third at this moment in time. Perry Jerry coming through sector 1, he's on the lap 2. Ross on another lap as well. 3 drivers in the pits so far, so plenty of track space out there for these drivers to pick their spot. Prev goes fourth fastest on a 29.3, and that's a pretty handy lap as well. A few more tenths, might find himself challenging for the front row of the grid. Thank you for the follow, Charlie 4K. Appreciate that, man. Hope you're well. I hope you're enjoying the stream. Ghost Tomino leading the way so far in qualifying. He's out of the pits. Coming through sector 1. Perry Jerry sets the track map purple in the middle sector. Mr. Wiggles getting nicely out of the way. He'll be on his way into the pits. What can Perry Jerry achieve? Predictions for Perry for top 5. Ross second lap on that same set of tyres. Excuse me, and goes second fastest. Pretty good lap there from Ross. And Perry Jerry slots his Aston Martin into the top 5. Nice little lap there from Perry. Wiggles doesn't come into the pits, instead he stays out for another run. Throttle through some of these S sections, down to 5th, short shifting into 6th, trying to get traction, trying to maintain the pace through these corners, and so far it's working. Small gains through sector 1, but just a couple of tenths, and he'll find himself provisionally on the second row of the grid. So much bravery, took that chicane absolutely perfect, apart from the small nudge of the wall on the exit, but again it might not cost that much time. What's it like through sector 2? Again, fractionally up. He must have, oh, and a spin! He must have absolutely nailed his first lap, because that did look pretty good. No cars directly behind Mr. Wiggles, so that's good news for him. Doesn't have to rush. On board with Ghost now. He probably is the bookie's favourite to pop his Alfa Romeo onto provisional pole. It's a 1 minute flat 0.8 in the middle sector. That is pretty good. But where will it compare to John's lap? 128.6 for John. This is going to be pretty close here from Ghost, but how close? Around the final corner, pretty much nailed it. Take a nice tight line to the line. It's a 28.3. And that is provisional pole for Ghost Tomino. Cracking lap there from Ghost. You just saw in Sector 2 and Sector 3, he was on it. It is looking super close in that midfield. Wiggles, 10-10, Perry, Prev. You could probably include Ross in that group as well. Within half a second of each other between P3 and P7. That guy dips into the pits. Still plenty of time for people to come out of the pits and set a lap time. 10-10, marginally down on his personal best in Sector 1. Everything to play for here in the final 2 sectors. Nailed that line beautifully and will have a very good exit. Short shifted up into 8th gear a little bit too soon perhaps. Might cost him a little bit of speed and a little bit of time. And there you can see he is slightly fractionally down on his personal best. Oh, and another spin! Might have some rear wing damage if he hit that wall a bit too hard, but I think he hasn't got any damage. I can just hear him in the party. So 10-10, fortunate that he has no damage after that slight mistake through that second chicane, and leaves me with no one to spectate at this moment in time. Ross coming to the final corner to start a brand new lap. 6 drivers out on track, 2 minutes left of session, only one can be on pole. So far, predictions from Josh and Padge are correct. Ghost followed by John, followed by Ross, but I'm sure, I know Ross by now, he won't be satisfied with a P3. He'll try everything in his book to try and... Oh, I'm pushing it just a little bit too far though. We've seen a lot of spins today and not too many crashes. It's obviously good news for Ross. But we have seen a lot of times tonight where that back end has wanted to step out on a number of drivers. Keeping that in check obviously will be a massive priority for the race. Not only do you not want to spin because you lose time, but because it will hurt the tyres too. And with Greg now, no personal best in this session so far. Sky's the limit therefore for Greg. So 1 minute 1.8, not the best we've seen, but certainly not the worst. Ryan's currently out on track, improving. Potentially, I don't actually know. That guy out on track, setting his first flying lap as well. Ross with that spin, might be gearing himself up for one final run in a second. John Wiggles also out on track. Ghost, 10-10, Perry and Prev on outlaps coming through to start. Greg opens his Q3 account with a 29.4, exactly what he did in Q2. That guy's had a bit of an issue in Sector 1 and unfortunately will not get around for another flying lap. So that guy will be starting in 10th place on the grid, and obviously what he doesn't want to do is hinder Ross, who is coming through Sector 1 as we speak. Someone has invalidated. John has invalidated, and that is no pole position attempt for John. He'll be starting second on the grid, that is, unless anyone else can't beat him. Ross 1/10 to the good in Sector 1. Ryan was on a lap, no improvement, might have been invalidated. He will stay 9th on the grid for the Jeddah Grand Prix. That guy will be in 10th and John will be in 2nd as things stand. Still 7 times to come in, potentially, in the next few moments. Ross losing time in Sector 2, but still within reach of a personal best. If he can just get ahead of Mr. Wiggles, who has done a 28.7 and pops up into 3rd place. Ross to the line. Will it be an improvement? Yes, it will, but not on his place, and finds himself 5 milliseconds behind his good old buddy Mr. Wiggles, who is not improving. Prev jumps up into the top 5 ahead of 1010 and Perry Jerry. That's a nice little lap there. Perry Jerry, third fastest. Nice lap there from Perry Jerry into the top 5, as his buddy predicted in chat. Greg, no improvement here for him, and 1010 likewise. Ghost finishes his session, doesn't go faster, but didn't need to. Pole position for second time this season for Ghost Tomino. 2 races, 2 pole positions for Ghost. He is looking the one to beat in quali. John was half a second up and invalidated on his final flying run. Potentially John could have snatched pole there, but starting P2 on the grid won't be a bad thing, especially on this track. If you get a good run from P2, you might have a chance to overtake up the inside into turn 1. So there you have it, confirmation. Ghost taking pole by almost an identical time gap from second place for the second week in a row, 3 and a bit tenths. John starting alongside him in the second row of the grid, and just like last week, Perry Jerry qualifying third on the grid to make it 2 Czech Republic drivers in the top 3. Mr. Wiggles rounding out row 2, Ross and Prev alongside in row 3, sorry. Row 4 will be 1010, who showed great promise early on, but just couldn't hook up a lap in the end, and GregStarz, who has impressed on his debut here tonight. Ryan and that guy rounding out the top 10. Still plenty of opportunities for all of these drivers in the race. We've got a 5-minute break in between the end of quali and the start of the race. Chance for the drivers to rest their legs if they're on wheel, get a drink, have a snack, do whatever they need to do to prepare them for the race. Obviously choose their setups and strategies and fuel loads. In the meantime, I'll tell you a bit more about our featured driver. In case you're new around here and don't know what featured driver is, it's a little thing we do at IIRL. Helps us to understand and get to know some of the people behind their gamer tags. Tonight, our featured driver is going to be Akaris. Akaris dropped out in Q1 today, but plenty of opportunities in the race to gain some positions. Akaris is 34 years of age, from the Netherlands, good friend of Tucker for life. Akaris works in a company that makes everything out of metal, and his dream job, he said, wouldn't mind driving an F1 car. I guess we're pretty much all in that same boat. What an amazing thing that would be, to drive an F1 car. His hobbies or interests outside of F1 are soccer, or football as some people call it. Racing tonight on the wheel, Logitech G920. Potentially a lot of other drivers in this league using that same setup as well. I asked them what who their favourite driver of all time is, and it could be F1, could be NASCAR, could be Formula E, could be anything really. He's gone with Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel, which will provide a nice little segue for me in a few minutes when we talk about Sebastian Vettel leaving F1. His best track on the calendar, or his most favourite track, is going to be Singapore, so plenty of races to go before that Singapore Grand Prix, but hopefully Akaris can get some points on the board before then. And his racing strengths, he says he is not good at crashing, so that is especially important for this track. His hopes and goals for Season 3, anywhere in the points is what he is hoping for, and I asked people if they consider anyone in this league to be a rival. Most people say no, but for some people they do have one, for obvious reasons. Akaris has chosen Tucker as his rival, says he can't lose to his real life mate. Completely understand that. As for his IIRL races, Kari's 31 races here in IIRL, 2 podiums, 20 points finishes, only 3 DNFs, so that is pretty good turnout, and 148 points in total from those 31 races. Not too bad if you ask me. Fingers crossed Akaris can get some points here tonight. Can you be feature driver? If you fill out my form, yeah. Gonna miss Seb. Yeah, that is something I wanted to talk about in this small 5-minute break. With Seb leaving the sport, it's been a glorious 15 years. And I think when he was at Red Bull, obviously with the multi-21 incident with Mark Webber, sort of turned into a villain very quickly. But since he had a less competitive car, I think his personality really has shone. Everyone loves Seb, and he will certainly be missed. Certainly one of my favourite drivers is leaving the sport. I'm sure we won't hear the last of Seb. I'm sure he'd be back involved in F1 in some way, shape or form at some point in life. Form, no. Can you not just talk about how much you love me? I could, but we'd be here for ages, and I have a race to commentate on, so sorry mate. Sorry to disappoint. Obviously with Seb leaving the sport, leaves a gap for Aston Martin, and I was picking my brain for a good 30 seconds this week thinking who's going to take that spot. Amazingly, Alonso has taken that spot, leaving a space at Alpine. And for a few hours, we thought that Oscar Piastri was going to take that second Alpine spot, but unfortunately, at 7 PM tonight, he tweeted out that unfortunately he won't be joining Alpine next season. In case you haven't seen that, go on Twitter and find that tweet from him. He won't be joining Alpine next season. Maybe he's holding out for a new spot in another team, possibly replacing Ricciardo at McLaren, possibly going to Alfa Romeo. He wants McLaren. Well, there you go. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he took the Alpine spot. I mean, Alpine are pretty good at the moment, pretty handy. Had a nice handy race in Hungary. And on the formation lap, this is where strategy takes centre stage. Plenty of different tyre strategies going on. Here you can see the tyres that they're using for the start of the race. Brand new set for every single driver. One driver on the soft tyres here tonight. Tucker for life, back of the field, looking to gain some places early on. A handful of drivers on the hard compound tyres. Ghost in first, 10-10 in 7th, that guy in 10th. Dayman in P13, Akaris and Greg 15th and 16th respectively. Everyone else using the mediums. So 6 on the hards, 1 on the softs, 13 on the mediums. And Ghost really wants those hard tyres nice and toasty for when he pulls up to the line. This will be a manual formation lap or an immersive formation lap, which means they will have to pull up to their pit box, their grid slot even, manually. Join on board with Ghost as he does that bit of a burnout. He will have to stop and try and get it purple. That's why he's inching forwards. If if they miss their spot or they go too far, they will be disqualified from the session, just like Perry Jerry in 3rd, and just like Prev in 6th. Really is quite an unexpected thing. Smaller Smiley also following suit. Tucker pulling up nicely there. And for the second time this season, the no assist tier is underway. This is a really bad camera angle, so we'll go on. Oh, that's a bit of a slide there from Ghost, who was overtaken by Ross and Mr. Wiggles. John goes a bit too deep into turn 1. There's people all over the shot, side by side, 2, 3 wide going into turns 1 and 2, but Ross leads the way from 4th on the grid, I believe. That's a really good start from Ross. He always gets good starts on this game. Mr. Wiggles following suit into 2nd place. John is ahead of Ghost, who after that slide has plenty of work to do if he wants to win this race tonight. Perry qualified in 3rd. He's down to 5th already, and that guy has had a brilliant start, up 3 places already. Ryan in 10-10, 2 Williams battling. Ryan, you can see round the outside there of that guy up into 6th place. And Ghost is really struggling on those hard compound tyres. They just haven't fired up in this portion of the race, and Ryan is looking desperately to get past Ghost as quick as he can. Mr. Colucci currently biggest loser of the pack. He's down to last place. Tucker has had an absolutely brilliant start using those soft tyres well. He's up to 15th place, getting his first points of the season on Sunday night. Plenty of improvement for Tucker on this new game. 10-10 has that guy in the AlphaTauri between him and his teammate, who I'm sure 10-10 will be aiming to try and beat here tonight. Prev looking back to his best, didn't have the best race last week, but looks pretty good here tonight so far. Ross leads Mr. Wiggles by less than a second, and on the start of lap 3, that is when DRS will be enabled. Tidius Bear and Deton pitting at the end of lap 1. Deton's onto hard tyres, Tidius Bear onto a set of soft tyres, hoping to try and gain some pace in this race. Akaris has lagged out and has rejoined. This midfield fight is getting very feisty. Ranier currently has a 5-second gap ahead of him, possibly having a couple of slides or mistakes, dropping him away from Smaller Smiley, and under pressure now from Tucker for 13th place. Deton has had a collision with Tidius Bear and has a 5-second time penalty. To see if Deton does have damage. Deton right end plate missing from his front wing, and we'll try and see if Tidius Bear has anything noticeable in his car. Nothing so far that we can see. So Deton will probably have to come in and pit for a new front wing. He can serve his 5-second time penalty in the process, but certainly Tidius Bear and Deton will need a safety car to help their races. Nice onboard camera. You can hear the throttle response from the drivers going through that sector 1 with a full tank of fuel. Brand new set of tyres do help them out, of course, in this stage of the race, but that full tank of fuel is going to slosh around as they go through these corners. Need to make sure they don't go off the track. And currently it looks like Mr. Wiggles has found some really good race pace, where his qualifying pace so far has been a little bit inconsistent. Bossed it in Q1, struggled in Q2, mid-pack in Q3, and has had a really good start. John, third place for him. Not too bad. Started second, but that 2-second gap ahead of him will slightly worry him. He's got Jerry and Ghost right on his tail here, as Prev and that guy going side by side through the final corner. Prev trying to stick it around the outside and get back ahead of that guy, which he has. 10-10 is lying in wait too, but under pressure from Flu, Smaller Smiley and GregStarz, who you can see going side by side in the background. Smaller leaving Greg as little room as he can through turn 2. Stays ahead. 11th place now for Smiley. That guy just running wide. In the S section, 10-10 taking advantage. These two on hard compound tyres, so won't give as much grip as those mediums, but will last longer in the race. Tucker pits. A little bit wide there from that guy who has to cut the corner to lose as little time to 10-10 as he can. DRS is enabled, so that is keeping that guy in the hunt. Again, just running wide at a chicane. All these warnings are going to add up for these drivers, as Smaller is looking so close here to the back of Flu for the final points paying position. No move into the final corner. Of course he's going to get some more DRS out of this final corner. Red light flashing on that guy's AlphaTauri. That means he's less than 25% ERS storage. So really struggling. Smaller getting as close to the back of that Aston Martin as he can before pulling out and trying an overtake, but not quite working into turn 1 out of turn 2. Nice little switchback manoeuvre, but Flew really good traction there, using some ERS probably. Stays ahead into 10th. Good racing from the pair of them. Ari's looking to get back past Greg. Greg just completing that overtake, and John has had a mistake in sector 1. He's falling down the timing screens. Possibly some contact with someone, we just don't know. But he has made a bit of an error. I think that was probably turn 13, the long left-hander. Now finds himself at the back of this big old train in 12th place. And John has hit a wall, no front wing, as you can see. Will have to box for a new one. Will probably box onto the hard compound tyres in the process. They probably will last the rest of the race now. 20 laps for a set of hards seems pretty good to me. Flu and Smaller still fighting. Greg lying in wait behind. But for John, that is not the way that he wanted his race to go so far. If a safety car comes out, he might get back into this. At the moment, he is going to lose a whole load of places. Flu working down the inside, contact between Smiley. Flu is round. Greg holding off in the background. Probably the wisest thing that Greg could have done there is just avoid contact, which I think he did. It's hard to see from the angle we had who was at fault there, or if anyone was to blame at all. But unfortunately for Flu, he has lost his 10th place, and he now finds himself 4 seconds adrift of this pair. Ross leads Mr. Wiggles on lap 6 by 1.2 seconds. Ghost is a further 2 seconds behind Mr. Wiggles and has Jerry for company behind. Prev is in 5th place and 3 and a bit seconds now behind Jerry in his Aston Martin, and has Ryan 1010 and that guy for company. Smaller spinning in sector 3, losing out to Greg. And Flu also has had a bit of a moment in this lap. Possibly another spin, possibly warm tyres. You can see a little bit of a slide there out of turn 24. As you see Greg in the background lapping Deaton. John has boxed, of course, for a new wing and a set of hard tyres. As we predicted, he's made his way past his teammate Mr. Colucci. 16th place now for John. Obviously, he won't have to pit again, so he might gain 20 seconds on the rest of the field. But remains to see where he's going to finish in this race. Lap 7 of 25. Anything can still happen here. Mr. Wiggles has lost a whole chunk of time in the last few moments. He now finds himself just 1/10 ahead of Ghost Tomino, who is right on Mr. Wiggles' tail. In fact, now finds himself ahead of Mr. Wiggles. Harry Jerry has lost grounds, and a bit of a spin for him in Sector 3. Unfortunately, we're not catching these spins as they happen, for which I do apologise, but people are spinning today, and it possibly could be a theme for throughout the week. Prev has lost his grip on what was 4th, now 5th to Ryan. 10-10 behind that group as well, and that guy has dropped off by a few seconds this lap, so people are making mistakes here tonight. These performance patches are catching people out. Could be the setup, could just be the way the tyres are. Could be the track, could be anything really. But Ghost Tomino is now up into 2nd place, and Ross has a 2.5 second advantage for the race win. You can just see him in the foreground there, starting to maybe build a bit of a gap on Ghost. Thank you for the follow, Major Clarkey. Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Perry Jerry retiring in the pits. That is a shame. Perry with his 2nd consecutive 3rd place qualifying. Fortunately, a mistake from Perry, ruining his race somewhat. Deciding, I'll get him next week. That guy with the first time penalty of the night, in terms of track limits on lap 8, that's pretty good, to be honest. We're expecting a few more time penalties than what we have seen so far, as Mr. Wiggles boxes from 3rd place. Interesting to see what Wiggles goes on to. Here comes Prev trying to get back past Ryan, which he does. Ryan under braking at turn 1. Prev leaves the space. That's 10-10 in the background, trying to follow his teammate. Bit of a slide from Prev, and Ryan looks to be getting past, but no way through. And he is so close to the back of that Ferrari engine. Mr. Wiggles boxes onto a new set of hard tyres where he will spend the remainder of the race, and has a nice bit of gap. He has a 10-second gap behind him to Flew. He has 2.5 seconds in front to smaller Smiley, who is on old mediums. Prev is looking very precarious right now, has 2 Williams swarming all over him in the battle for the final podium spot as things stand. Oh, Ryan, sending it into the final corner. Just looked like he understeered a little bit into Prev, who did leave some room there. Might see a clip of that in the stewards afterwards, but unfortunately for Ryan, he has lost a big chunk of time. 10-10. Up into 4th ahead of his teammate Prev. keeping hold of third. Mr. Wiggles into the pits once again, so possibly those hard tyres haven't quite fired up for him and has got some damage somewhere. He's onto his new set of soft tyres. Ryan pits after that incident with Prev. He's onto a new set of hard tyres too. Mr. Wiggles will be two-stopping from now. He'll go on to another set of soft tyres, I imagine, as this race progresses. Ross leads Ghost Tomino by 2.0 seconds, made that 1.9. That gap has reduced by half a second in the past 3 or so laps. So Ghost is starting to reel Ross in. It's not happening as quickly as Ghost would want it to. Those hard tyres are going to mean that Ghost stops later for new tyres. As 1010 gets super close there to the back of Prev's Ferrari. And now is a good opportunity for 1010 to open that DRS. Not applying any ERS. As a result, Prev stays in third. Tucker retiring in the pits. Will not, unfortunately, pick up points tonight like he did on Sunday night. 18 runners. Deton is a lap down. I'm questioning why he's still going. You never know. It's a shame you can't unlap yourself under safety car. I still think that's one of the things they need to work on. Ghost Tomino is really pulling the screw here. He is down now within a second of Ross and has DRS. Ghost is flying, and this could be the crossover point where those mediums start to go off and those hard tyres start to come through. Obviously, same predicament for Prev and 1010 as Mr. Colucci pits onto a brand new set of hard tyres on lap 10. And I wonder what Ross's strategy here. If he keeps on staying out, we might see a medium-soft strategy. It's not unheard of. If he can stretch it to maybe lap 17, might be able to box onto a new set of soft tyres for the remainder of the race. Obviously, Ghost will be hoping that he can go onto soft tyres for his second stint. This could be very interesting to see what these two strategies are going to be. Prev and 1010 swapping positions into turn 1. Prev getting 1010 back out of turn 2. What happened to Mr. Wiggles? Excuse me, Mr. Wiggles had a bit of an incident. Boxed onto hard tyres and then boxed again the following lap. So I assume, we didn't catch it on stream, I assume what's happened is he's come out of the pits on a new set of hard tyres, struggled to warm them up, got some damage somewhere and has had to box. So unfortunately Mr. Wiggles has had 2 pit stops already in this race. Doesn't find himself too far away from some good points, but obviously he will have to pit again. Those soft tyres won't last another 13 laps. Tucker and Perry both retiring in the pits, so no safety cars so far, although we do have a yellow flag in sector 1, as here comes 1010 now down the inside of Prev, and Ghost and Ross fighting it out through the line. Ross staying ahead of Ghost here. This fight is really hotting up. Got 2 fights to watch. We can either watch Ross and Ghost at the front, Prev and 1010. We could watch Dayman and Greg in the battle for 8th. We can watch Mr. Wiggles try and close up on Flew and Ryan. Plenty of stuff going on in this race. Unfortunately, we can't catch all of it. But this fight for the lead is looking pretty tasty. Ghost is trying to force Ross here into a mistake. into a spin perhaps, or maybe trying to get him to cut a corner. Tidiest bet. 17th at the moment, 3-second time penalty will be added on to his finishing time for corner cutting. Mr. Wiggles pitting for the 3rd time where he retires. That is a shame. Mr. Wiggles was struggling in practice. Had a really good start to this race, but unfortunately hasn't been the race he was hoping for. Here comes Ghost now, retaking the lead from Ross. These two got very close there in Sector 3. I thought we were going to see some kind of contact or some kind of incident. Here comes Ross now. Side by side, completely side by side. Ghost brakes later, Ross going for the switchback. But Ghost traction is just good. Those medium tyres are looking pretty worn from Ross's perspective. Definitely beyond their use by date. And we could see Ghost here pull the screw, try and get that 1 second gap. Already through that first sector, he's gained about 7 or 8 tenths. Meanwhile, these two are still fighting over 3rd place. Prev leading 10-10. I have often described Prev as the league's best defender, and he's proven me right once again. Greg is into the pits on the end of lap 13. Onto a new set of medium tyres for the remainder of the race. 12 laps Greg has got to nurse those mediums for. That guy is starting to close up now on these two. The more they fight, the more that guy has free air to work in. Here comes 10-10 down the inside now into the 2nd chicane. And he's well, 10-10's gone! He's spun, he's not out. Thankfully for the 10-10's sake. Perhaps not the move that 10-10 was hoping for there. Prev, being a staunch defender, forced perhaps 10-10 into a slightly more risky move, and I think that was what Prev was aiming for. Ghost now pitting from the lead. That guy following suit. 10-10 is in as well. Obviously he has damage, but this actually might be a suitable lap for him to pit strategy-wise, so he might not lose too much here, depending on when he comes out of the pits. But Ghost will be looking to use those brand new set of tyres to build a bit of a gap on Ross for when he pits. Prev is in 2nd place. That guy now on brand new tyres has lost out to 4th on smaller Smiley, who has not pitted yet. That guy almost losing it through turn 4, but keeping it nice and controlled. Obviously, when you come out of the pits on this game, you need to warm your tyres up. So that's why smaller Smiley, even though he's 14 laps on those medium tyres, he is starting to pull away a little bit. That guy is just firing up his tyres for the remainder of this race. John, really good recovery drive so far. He's back up into 6th place. He is on old hard tyres, which means he will be susceptible to potentially a bit of a late comeback from 10-10, who is in 7th place after that spin. And an identical move here potentially. No, not quite for that guy. Looked to be doing what 10-10 did to Prev. And those tyres have finally fired up for that guy. DRS assistance round the outside into turn 27, and that guy is up into 4th place. Has a long way to go if he wants to get a podium here, but has to wait obviously until Ross and Prev make their pit stops. Smaller Smiley still hasn't pitted, and all 3 of them, I assume, will be going for a medium soft in this race. There is Tidiest Bear just getting lapped by 4th place. That guy. Ryan on a bit of a recovery drive after a bit of an incident with Prev earlier. 10-10, 3-second time penalty as he pushes hard to try and gain on the back of John. Needs to be careful 10-10 that he doesn't lose 7th place to Flew now. And with Ryan right behind him, 10-10 might lose 2 places at the race's conclusion. Lap 16 of 25, still got 10 laps remaining, and we still don't know who's going to win. Ghost is closing to the back of Prev, but if Prev is defending in a similar manner to what he did with 10-10, Ghost might be losing some time here as Ross, our race leader, pits from the lead. Ross, as predicted, onto a new set of soft tyres. This is going to open the door for Prev to pit and for smaller Smiley to pit. And I have to say, to get those mediums to go 15-16 laps in this race is a great achievement, especially with tyre wear being such a contentious issue after the performance patch a couple of weeks ago. So Ross has done really well there on those mediums. Obviously, he needs to make sure that those soft tyres don't get too worn in his attempt to hunt down Ghost. The gap at the front is 6 seconds. That is what Ross is faced with. 6-second gap in 8 or 9 laps if he wants to win this race. Ryan's still battling with Flew. These two on identical strategies. Don't need to pit again, of course. But Ryan finding it really difficult to get past Flew, who is as stubborn as they come. Ahead of him, we mentioned John having a nice little recovery drive. He's caught up to smaller Smiley. Smaller, of course, and needs to pit. Here comes John. Ahead. He's in this DRS zone, this new DRS zone for this game. As Prev pits from 2nd place. He's lost out to Ross. Question will be where he comes out in relation to that guy. Those two were pretty close before that guy pitted. Prev coming out of the pits. That guy is already out of turn 2, and Prev is still just finding his way through turn 2 now. John coming through turn 2 as well, so Prev has got a nice bit of space behind him. Doesn't need to worry about what's in his rear view mirrors, but has a 4-second gap to try and get on the podium here tonight. And of course, that guy with his 3-second time penalty, Prev's job is made considerably easier. Smaller Smiley pits 2, he comes out in 9th place and has a brand new set of soft tyres on his car. So he'll be trying to hunt down Ryan and Flew for a potential 7th place in this race. Gap at the front is decreasing, was 6 seconds, now 4.3. Ross has fired those soft tyres up and is homing in now on the back of Ghost Tomino, who missed out on the race win last week. He came 2nd. Is it going to be another 2nd place for Ghost? Will Ross claim his first win of the season? Gap's starting to form, and strategy is going to come into play in the next few laps. Lap 19 of 25, Ghost has just started. 6 laps racing, plus this one they're on. Ryan is still desperately trying to get past Flew. This is the most stubborn defending I've seen for a while. Flew gets good exits out of that final corner. Ryan's not using ERS here, so maybe Ryan is playing the long game. Go on board now with Dayman, who is within DRS range of Greg. Not quite close enough into turn 1 to make a move. Good morning, Kate. Sorry about that. I did see it, but forgot to say it. Good morning. How are you? car undrivable setup or whatever. It was also pitting me without fixing my wings, so it's a no from... Oh, that's a shame. Yeah, it's horrible when it doesn't fix your wing for you when you need it. Ghost win potentially. That gap is reducing though. Was 4.3, now 3.7. Ross needs to utilise these next few laps really well. Try and get within DRS range. Even if he doesn't get the move done straight away, it doesn't matter as long as he has the DRS. He can save his battery, try and get close in the final couple of laps and go for a move. But can Ghost hold on? Rev doesn't seem to be enjoying those soft tyres as much as those mediums that he had just a few minutes ago. Gap is still around 4 seconds, so with Prev he has the tyre advantage. And he has the advantage obviously of the time penalties. What's happened to that guy, as we say? I think he's made a mistake through sector 1 and he's lost a whole load of time. He's lost out on his 3rd place, and now John could be in for a remarkable fight for a potential 4th place in this race after the early mistake and an early forced pit stop. Could find himself still in the top 4. That is a remarkable drive there from John. Thank you for the follow, Rapid Viper. Appreciate that, man. Hope you're well. Hope you're enjoying the stream. 3 streams on this channel a week: Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. Today, every Tuesday, is the no assist bunch. All of these drivers racing absolutely no assist, the hardest form of sim racing there is today, and they're putting on a show for us, and we still don't know who's going to win. That gap has stabilised out front. Ross is still 3.7 behind Ghost, and maybe those soft tyres are just starting to get to that point where they're losing peak performance. Maybe Ghost has played this strategy perfectly well, and maybe Ghost has the pace right now to hold off from Ross. John biding his time, doesn't want to send the move down the inside where contact can happen. These two still fighting. This time Ryan is ahead of Flu, but not for long. Flu flying the flag for France down the inside into turn 1. Ryan looking for a switchback. But these two putting on a great show for us, proving that you can race very close on a street circuit like Jeddah. You can sense that Ryan's really in a groove, just the way he took that sector 1. Really in a groove now, very comfortable with where he's at. No concerns whatsoever. Taking a tight line through turn 13. Doesn't want to get in the dirty air of that Aston Martin in front, lose traction. The more that these two fight, the more that Smaller Smiley in 9th place will be gaining. He is on a brand new set of soft tyres, remember, and he will be fighting Ryan and Flu for position. This could be turning into a brilliant 3-way battle for 7th place in the next few laps. And what has happened to Ross? He is now 15 seconds behind our race leader Ghost. Ross has made a big mistake, and Ghost is now feeling no pressure whatsoever. Just like last week where Ghost had an issue and Slapbus eased his car home to victory, Ghost is now finding himself in the opposite scenario. Ghost is on top and is firm favourite to win this. Well, I'm not chatting bad about all these drivers here. I mean, I firmly respect the no assist driving. Always have, always will. It's not been the most exciting race we've ever seen, but it has been the most fascinating one. Plenty of spins, plenty of mistakes from drivers. No safety cars though, which has been possibly the most surprising thing of the night. Qualifying was very interesting indeed. Plenty of wheel-to-wheel racing in this Grand Prix. This battle's been going on for the best part of 10 laps. Possibly more. Ghost Tomino with a 3-second time penalty. Won't mean anything as things stand. Has a 16-second lead over Ross, and all Ghost needs to do now is make sure he doesn't crash, don't get any more penalties, and bring the car home. Ross not under any pressure from Prev. He'll be taking him a second place as things stand. Had a brilliant start, did Ross, as Ryan just outbraking himself there into turn 1. Did well to not make contact with Flew, but may lose out on the DRS if he's not careful this lap. Smiley with a time penalty in the last few laps. That's going to hinder his progress to progress from 9th place. Looks increasingly likely like he's going to finish in 9th place. GregStarz on his debut tonight has impressed us in quali, especially in quali tonight. 10th place, picking up a point as things stand. Has got Dayman behind him on slightly better tyres. GregStarz need to make sure he doesn't get a time penalty in the last couple of laps. That guy has John behind him. John, after that early incident, forced into a pit stop on the end of lap 6 or 7. Has done remarkably well to get back up to 5th. If he can stay within 3 seconds of that guy in 4th, he will be in 4th. I have to say, a remarkable drive there from John to recover in the manner that he has. His hard tyres are going to be absolutely shredded at this point in the race. Ryan is flirting with the idea of getting back within DRS range of Flew. Both of these two dumping a lot of their energy this lap. You can see the red light flashing at the back of their car. Lap 24 of 25. Ghost, it's been not a plain sailing race. He's had to fight for it. He had to make his way past Mr. Wiggles before he retired. He had to make his way past Ross. He pulled the gap, made the earlier pit stop, got the gap back. Looked like Ross was going to catch. And Ghost showed his pace. Ross made the mistake, and now Ghost has a 19-second lead. And that could be all she wrote. Ghost comes across the line to start lap 25 of 25 to kick off this week's action. Ryan is back now within DRS range of Flew and will only have 1.5 laps to get that move done. Our featured driver, Akaris, has been a little bit in nowhere land, down in 14th. He's been in a fight with Runier, but unfortunately for the last 5 or so laps, he's just been 2 or 3 seconds behind, so not able to get within DRS range of Runier in 13th. But if he stays within Runier 3 seconds, he will pick up 13th place here tonight. That guy's closing on Prev now. Those soft tyres for Prev starting to deteriorate. Start of the last lap, and here goes Ryan making his move down the outside of turn 1, gets the inside for turn 2. Flew carries it round the outside of turn 2 where there is better traction, a better line, and keeps hold of 7th place. This is the fight we want to see. Ryan looking very desperate now to get past where he was calm and composed. Slight mistake into turn 1. Had to build the gap all over again. No DRS down this straight, unlike last game. Flew staying ahead. Ghost across the line to win the Saudi Grand Prix. He's won it in great fashion. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He forced Ross into a mistake perhaps, and he won the Jeddah Grand Prix. Oh, and Ryan's gone! Not the first driver we've seen spin today. But Ghost winning the Jeddah Grand Prix by 23 seconds. Ross, great start for him, and certainly would be very content with second. If I asked him at the start of the race, here comes Prev across the line to take the final podium spot. John does hang on to 4th place ahead of that guy. 10-10 after his spin, possibly could have found himself on the podium here tonight, but a good recovery here in 6th place. And after Ryan's spin, Flew will comfortably come home in P7. Smaller Smiley with that time penalty will probably lose out to Ryan on the line and will lose 8th place. GregStarz comes home to finish in the final points paying position on his debut. Great drive there, GregStarz. Take a bow, mate. Dayman Greg just finishing outside of the points. Ranier in 13th. Our feature driver Akaris will get him on the line. 3-second time penalty for Ranier. And Akaris, the ghosted McLaren, across the line. I think the race ended before he crossed the line, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. And Akaris doesn't fancy doing the in-lap. But for Ghost Tomino, almost a carbon copy of what happened last week in Bahrain. Last week, Ghost missed out on the race win. This time, he got it. And fastest lap to boot. Pole position, race win, fastest lap for Ghost Tomino. Brilliant performance here tonight. And Ghost takes the lead of the championship after race number 2 of the season. Ross and Prev on the podium. John, after an incident earlier in the race, forced him into an early stop. Great recovery up to 4th there. That guy just missing out on 4th with the time penalty. 10-10, what could have been a possible podium here tonight, but a slight mistake from him and possible steward's inquiry after the race. He has to settle for 6th place. But still a very strong drive there from 10-10. Flew and Ryan providing one of the battles of the season, 7th and 8th respectively. Smaller Smiley, points again for him, and GregStarz on his debut, 1 point. I'm sure he will be happy with that. Dayman Greg running at Akaris, Colucci, Tidiest Bear, and Deton rounding off our classified runners. Mr. Wiggles, Tucker and Perry Jerry just didn't quite happen for them tonight, retiring in the pits. No safety cars here tonight. Perhaps the most surprising thing of this race. So they have it, Ghost righting the wrong from last week, where he made a mistake and lost out on the opportunity to win the race. This time taking home the race win and a full 26 points here tonight with his 2nd pole position. Ghost is establishing himself as possibly the one to beat so far this season. Well, every Tuesday night up until Christmas we're going to have back-to-back races in the no assist division, so make sure you join us on Tuesday nights to see how this championship is shaping up. Remember, Thursday night is assist tier 1. All races this week will be at Saudi Arabia, so join us for more of the same. And on Sunday night, assist tier 2. Join us again. Thank you all for the new follows, all 8 of them. I appreciate that. We have passed our follower goal of 460. Let's go for 470 this week and next week. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. We hope this won't be the last time you join us, and we hope you have a fantastic week. From me, the Sun God, peace.